You're about to see a lawmaker tell a cabinet secretary that his agency is breaking federal transparency law, and she doesn't suggest it, she states it. You are inaccurate. That's the spark. What comes after is the fire. Don't miss this.
Ms. DeLauro?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. My apologies. There are a lot of appropriations, markups, and hearings today, so I apologize for being late. And with that, I would like to ask unanimous consent to put my opening remarks in the record, if I can. Thank you. And good morning to you all. It's good afternoon now, Mr. Secretary. Let me just follow up on something that my colleague, Mr. Mervan, was asking about, and that was the International Trade Administration, which helps to increase our exports of American products and services, protects American producers against trade cheating by China and others. I think it's important to note to my colleague, Mr. Mervan, that there has been almost a 30% cut to the ITA, $183 million. That's for below what was proposed for 2025. So it was going to cost American jobs, decimates ITA's U.S. commercial service, operates out of U.S. export assistance centers and U.S. embassies abroad, works to maintain and increase the exports of U.S. products and services. So the agency, which is meant to protect, if you will, our exporters, et cetera, and is now being decimated. I think one has to look at what has been cut. There's a MEP program that I believe has been eliminated. One needs to go carefully through each of these areas and get a sense of, in fact, what is being cut back. And, you know, facts are funny. You got to deal with the details and with the facts. You just can't speak about it and make general statements. And when you cut back on agencies and the way that you have and slash and burn, if you will, then we're not going to get to where we want to go. I want to focus a second on two quick areas. One is transparency in government, because it's critical. Americans need to see where their tax dollars are going. And since 2022, we've had in place, I say that and maybe self-serving, I worked hard on this issue, and we got bipartisan, bicameral agreement to make sure that the executive branch, and I made sure that was with a Democratic administration, they are legally required to publicly post budget documents. That is how and when, how and where taxpayers' dollars are being spent. They're called apportionments. Put that aside. It's about saying how the money is going to be spent, and that is online. Now, this information is legally required. It's binding on a federal agency. The Office of Management Budget uses the information to tell agencies how and when they can spend the funds that Congress has appropriated. Beginning in March, OMB stopped posting these documents. This is illegal. And it's a slap in the face to the principle of transparency, accountability in government spending, which this administration claims to champion. Mr. Secretary, I'm going to ask for your commitment to once again making the amount-specific budget documents, apportionments, how and where U.S. tax dollars are being spent by the Department of Commerce and its bureaus publicly accessible. Will you commit to doing that?
It's my understanding that my department is following the CR with precision, as is required.
No, you are inaccurate, because I'll get to spend plans. We do not have details on the spend plans, which the CR requires. And it hasn't happened. We have a lack of specificity on this. It's more than 5 weeks after the legal due date. We do not have a detailed spend plan as required by the law. Let me go back. Will you commit to getting online how and where the American taxpayers' dollars with regard to the Department of Commerce are being spent, as is required by the law?
I will, of course, follow the law, but it is my understanding, as I've been advised, that we have filed precisely according to the CR's requirement.
I do not know who you got your advice from, but this is the Appropriations Committee. We're looking at every spend plan, and let me just tell you, the bare bones spend plan was 3 weeks late. Surely, in that time, you must have had time to put together a more detailed spend plan. This is false. The law sets out the timeline and the level of detail. This is what is happening is illegal and in contravention of what this committee does and it puts together. And if you can't make a commitment, I take that as no, you will not commit, so that the public has no idea of what any agency in this administration is, how they're spending the taxpayers' dollars and where those dollars are going. I yield back and wait for a second round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
She begins by laying out the cuts to the International Trade Administration, but pay attention to what she's actually doing. She isn't listing numbers for effect. She's laying down the foundation for an argument about consequences. A 30% slash, $183 million gone. That's not a statistic. That's an entire apparatus collapsing. The ITA exists so American companies aren't crushed by unfair trade practices abroad. So when she describes that cut as decimation, she's not exaggerating. She's describing the moment the guardrails fall. And this is what makes the next part so important, because DeLauro's real target isn't just budget slashing, it's the erosion of accountability happening quietly underneath it. She brings up transparency, and this is where the hearing shifts from tense to historic. Back in 2022, she helped push through a bipartisan requirement that federal agencies publicly post their spending instructions, apportionment documents, so the American people can literally see where their tax dollars go. These aren't flashy reports or PR pamphlets. They are the legal DNA of the federal budget. They tell agencies, here is how you're allowed to spend money. Here is when you're allowed to spend it. Here is how much you're allowed to use. They are the federal receipts. The public has a legal right to them. And she made sure the law required them to be posted online, no exceptions, not even for her own party. And then she drops the conflict. Since March, those documents stopped being posted. That's not a clerical oversight. That's a blackout. And in a government that spends more than $6 trillion a year, a blackout in transparency is the same as removing the brakes on a speeding car. You don't see where the money goes. You don't see who benefits. And most importantly, you don't see who's breaking the rules. So when she turns to Secretary Howard Lutnick, she's not confronting him as a witness. She's treating him as the steward of public trust who is failing a legal obligation. Her question isn't really a question, it's a test. Will he commit to restoring transparency? Will he agree to follow the law she wrote? And his answer, calm and measured, is exactly what triggers the explosion. It is my understanding that my department is following the CR with precision. In Washington, some phrases are more dangerous than insults. My understanding is one of them. It tells lawmakers you don't actually know. You're relying on someone else's interpretation. And it lands like an admission of distance between a leader and the truth. That's why DeLauro's response is immediate and surgical. You are inaccurate. Those 3 words hit harder than a full paragraph. They mean, I have the documents, I have the deadlines, I have the statutory language, and you are standing on a misunderstanding. And she doesn't let it go. She repeats what the committee has seen. No detailed spend plans, deadlines missed by weeks, only bare-bones submissions that don't meet legal requirements. This isn't her opinion. These are legal violations. Violations of a law she helped write. Violations that erase the public's ability to track trillions in government spending. The more Lutnick insists he's following the rules, the more DeLauro sharpens the contrast. This is false. This is illegal. This is in contravention of what this committee does. What she's actually doing is forcing him into a corner, not politically, but factually. And every time he refuses to commit, she exposes how fragile transparency becomes when the guardian of the data won't answer a yes or no question. The power of this exchange isn't in the volume, it's in the stakes. Transparency isn't symbolic, it's the firewall between public money and government abuse. When those apportionment documents don't appear, citizens don't know what's being spent, when it's being spent, or whether agencies are following the rules Congress set. Without visibility, oversight becomes guesswork, and in that environment, anything can happen in the dark. And that's why DeLauro ends the way she does, not with frustration, but with finality. I take that as a no. It's the political equivalent of closing a case file, not because the answers were given, but because the witness refused to give them. She doesn't storm out, she doesn't shout, she simply returns to her seat and says she'll wait for round 2. And if you've watched Rosa DeLauro long enough, you know what that means. This was just the opening strike. What you just saw wasn't about personalities. It was about whether the public has the right, the legal right, to know where its money goes. DeLauro wasn't defending Democrats. She wasn't defending Republicans. She was defending the architecture of accountability that keeps the government honest. And it raises a question that every viewer should sit with. If spending transparency disappears quietly, how would we even know? So I want to hear from you. Do you think Lutnick was genuinely misinformed, or was this a sign of something much deeper inside the administration's approach to disclosure? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns that actually explain the stakes, not just the spectacle, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're just getting started.